Chioma always believed she was born for the finer things in life, living like every day was a fashion show until one terrible mistake changed everything. Hold on tight. This story will shake you. Welcome to Talking African Tales, home of beautiful African sotries. Please do well to subscribe. Chioma was the type of girl who turned heads everywhere she went. At 25, she was beautiful, tall, well-shaped, and always dressed like money. She worked as a customer service officer at a telecom company, but if you saw her on the street, you would think she owned a boutique in Lekki. Chioma lived and breathed luxury. Nothing could convince her that she wasn't meant for the high life. But behind all that shine was a serious problem. Chioma could not control her spending. Wigs, heels, bags, clothes, jewelry. If it looked expensive or was trending on Instagram, she had to have it. She didn't care if she had to survive on bread and tea for weeks, as long as a new designer bag was sitting in her wardrobe. Every month, by the second week, her salary was finished. Completely finished. And like clockwork, she would show up at her stepsister Mora's house to beg for money. Chioma, you just got paid 2 weeks ago and you spent everything already. Madam Big Girl, Amora would say, shaking her head. Chioma would just laugh it off. You know I have to maintain my status now. Chioma, you need to control this you're spending before it controls you. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. Amora would warn her seriously. But Chioma would just wave her hand. Forget tomorrow. Very soon, I will find a rich man who will sponsor my lifestyle. That's all I need. One Tuesday morning, Chioma walked into the office wearing a brand new outfit that looked straight out of a magazine. Her heels made loud sounds on the floor as she walked in like she was on a runway. Our Lekki babe has arrived, one of her colleagues teased. Chioma just smiled big and waved like a celebrity. Even though they all earned almost the same salary, she carried herself like she was earning millions. As soon as she sat down at her desk, she brought out her phone and started taking selfies. Taking pictures was her daily routine. She never missed posting on Instagram. Within minutes, she uploaded the photos with the caption "Corporate Baddie." Around lunchtime, her phone rang. It was Amora. "Babe, let's go out for dinner tonight," Amora said. Chioma's eyes lit up immediately. Dinner at a nice restaurant meant one thing: plenty of pictures and videos for her Instagram. "Yes, I'm coming," she said excitedly. After work, Chioma rushed home and spent almost 3 hours trying on different outfits. Her room looked like a hurricane had hit a boutique by the time she was done. Finally, she chose a tight red dress with shiny gold buttons. She looked at herself in the mirror, turning this way and that way. "Red is definitely my color," she said, smiling at her reflection. She was ready for the night, ready for attention, and ready to show Instagram that she never missed. Amora picked Chioma up that evening, and when Chioma got into the car, Amora's mouth dropped. Chioma, you're dressed like someone going for a wedding reception. You look amazing." Chioma smiled proudly. "Thank you, dear. You look nice too." They arrived at the restaurant and sat down. Before Amora could even look at the menu properly, Chioma leaned forward. "Please snap me small," she whispered. Amora didn't argue. If there was one thing she knew about her stepsister, it was that Chioma could not survive one day without taking pictures. She took several photos while Chioma posed like a professional model. As they ate and talked, Amora suddenly stopped chewing. Her eyes grew wide as she looked toward the entrance. "Chioma, see this fine man. Some people are just too fine for no reason," she whispered. Chioma looked up and saw him. Tall, handsome, well-dressed in a blue suit. "We're staring too much," she whispered back. "Let's just face our food." They both giggled quietly and continued eating. Just as they were about to pay and leave, the handsome stranger walked straight to their table. "Good evening, ladies. How are you doing?" he said in a smooth, deep voice. Amora smiled politely, but she noticed something immediately. His eyes were only on Chioma. Her smile disappeared a little. "I don't usually do this," he said, still looking at Chioma. "But I would have regretted leaving here without saying hello." Chioma's face brightened as she stretched out her hand. "I'm Chioma." "I'm Tunde," he replied with a nice smile. He paused for just a moment before asking, "Can I take you out sometime?" "That won't be bad," Chioma replied, smiling sweetly. They exchanged phone numbers, and soon after, Amora drove Chioma home. "Good night, sis," Amora said as she waved. Chioma waved back happily. But deep down, Amora wasn't exactly happy that Tunde chose Chioma over her. Still, she reminded herself that Chioma was her stepsister, so she had to be happy for her. Later that night, as Chioma was lying on her bed scrolling through TikTok, a message came through. It was Tunde. "Hello, beautiful." Chioma started blushing immediately, rolling around on her bed like a teenager. They texted back and forth until she fell asleep with her phone still in her hand. The next day after work, Chioma dressed up for her date with Tunde. She wore a beautiful blue dress that fit her body perfectly. When Tunde arrived to pick her up in a clean Toyota Camry, Chioma's heart started beating fast. "This is it," she thought. "My dream of dating a rich man is finally happening." Tunde took her to another nice restaurant in Victoria Island. They talked, laughed, and enjoyed their food. And of course, Chioma took plenty of pictures. Her phone was basically glued to her hand the whole time. As the night went on, one thing became clear to Chioma. She felt like she had finally entered the life she always dreamed of. After dinner that night, Tunde drove Chioma home. From then on, they became very close. Late-night calls, constant texting, and regular dates. It didn't take long before Tunde asked her to be his girlfriend. Chioma said yes immediately. She loved the attention, the gifts, and most importantly, the fact that he had money. She worked at a bank as a senior officer, and he always looked sharp and well put together. But as the relationship continued, Tunde began to notice something that worried him. Chioma's crazy shopping habit. It wasn't about the money. He could afford to buy her things. The problem was that she bought things she didn't even need. "Babe, I thought you already have a red bag like this," he said one day as they stood in an expensive shop on the island. "No, babe. The one I have is wine red. This one is cherry red. I really need it," she replied, pushing out her lips like a child. Tunde smiled weakly. Chioma took that as approval and continued shopping. "Red is red," Tunde said quietly under his breath, but he didn't argue. He loved her deeply and wanted her to be happy, even if her happiness came in shopping bags. Their relationship grew stronger. They were complete opposites. Chioma was loud, flashy, and always posting online. Tunde was quiet, calm, and always busy at the bank managing accounts and attending meetings. Still, he never complained. He spoiled her with hair, shoes, jewelry, and bags almost every week. One afternoon, while Chioma was at Tunde's apartment looking for her earring that had fallen somewhere, something caught her eye. A small black box hidden in his wardrobe. Curious, she picked it up. Her breath stopped the moment she opened it. An engagement ring. She covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming. "So Tunde wants to propose to me," she whispered joyfully. Her mind immediately started thinking of possibilities. A big, beautiful venue, maybe a beach with flowers everywhere, balloons, cameras, something that would trend on Instagram for weeks. But then she frowned. Tunde likes quiet things. He might just do a small, simple proposal. No way. I must know the plan. My engagement must be the biggest Abuja has ever seen. She rushed to the living room where Tunde was watching football on TV. "Babe, I found the engagement ring," she said excitedly. Tunde's eyes grew big. "Where did you find it? What were you looking for there?" "That doesn't matter," Chioma said, still smiling. "But don't worry, I'll pretend I didn't see anything. So, what's the plan? Where are you proposing?" "Chioma, I was planning to propose over dinner. Something simple and private. You know I don't like plenty people and noise, babe." "No, I don't want anything simple. Don't worry. I'll plan the engagement myself." The next day, Chioma visited Amora. She couldn't hide her excitement as she announced, "Tunde wants to propose." Amora screamed happily. "But wait, isn't a proposal supposed to be a surprise?" "Yes, but I found out," Chioma replied like it was nothing. "It's fine." Then she leaned forward eagerly. "Do you know any big, nice place we can use for the engagement party?" Amora's eyes grew wide. "You're planning your own engagement?" "Yes, I want it to be perfect and up to my standard," Chioma said proudly. Amora just stared at her stepsister in shock as Chioma continued talking non-stop about decorations, flowers, expensive chairs, and how she wanted the engagement to be the biggest event Abuja would ever see. Chioma had taken over everything. The plans, the venue, and even how her own proposal should look. After weeks of loud preparations and endless arguments with Tunde, Chioma's engagement day finally arrived. The venue looked like something from a movie. Beautiful decorations, scented candles, soft lights, and a live band playing love songs. Chioma walked in, pretending to be shocked, even though she had planned every single detail herself. Cameras were flashing everywhere like it was already her wedding day. Tunde went down on one knee and proposed, and of course, Chioma said yes. She immediately posted the photos and videos on Instagram, smiling proudly at all the likes and comments. She didn't notice how uncomfortable Tunde looked as bright camera lights kept flashing in his face. He was sweating and looking down most of the time. Wedding preparations began the following week. As expected, Chioma wanted nothing but the best, luxury, glamour, and plenty of show. She didn't bother to ask Tunde for his opinion. She hired 2 popular event planners and demanded the most expensive decorations and designs. Tunde tried to talk to her about the costs. "Babe, this is too much. Let's reduce some of these expenses." Chioma shook her head. "Babe, I'm known on social media. People are expecting a grand wedding. I can't disappoint them." She had no idea her loyalty and love were about to be tested seriously. One Friday evening, Chioma and Tunde were having dinner at home when Tunde's phone rang. The moment he answered, his face went completely pale. "What? What do you mean sacked?" he shouted. "Babe, what's going on?" Chioma asked, panicking. But Tunde didn't reply. He grabbed his car keys and rushed out of the house before Chioma could follow him. When he came back hours later, he was a broken man. His eyes were red and swollen. He sat on the couch, tears rolling down his face. "Babe, talk to me. What happened?" Chioma begged, holding his hand. "They sacked me, Chioma. The bank sacked me," he whispered. "They said the branch didn't meet target, so they're letting go of senior staff. I'm finished." Chioma screamed and fell to the floor. "Oh God, I'm finished. My enemies have won. What will happen to my wedding? I'm doomed." Tunde just stared at her quietly. In his darkest moment, when his whole career had just collapsed, her first thought was not about him but about her wedding. That night, Tunde didn't sleep. He cried until morning came. Days passed quietly. Tunde stayed home, barely speaking or moving. The weight of losing his job crushed him every single day. He sent out his CV to different banks and companies, but nobody was calling him back. One morning, he finally gathered courage and called Chioma. "Babe, you've seen everything that has happened. I'm at my lowest point right now. I barely have savings left. For now, we need to postpone the wedding until I get back on my feet." Chioma fell to the floor dramatically. "What will people say? What will my followers say? Oh God, this can't be happening to me." Tunde stared at her, confused and deeply hurt. His life had just collapsed, and all Chioma cared about was Instagram and what people would say. "Babe, don't cry," he said softly, trying to comfort her. "By God's grace, I will rise again. I just need time." But Chioma said nothing. Her silence was louder than any words. Months passed. Tunde went from office to office looking for a job. He attended interviews, sent applications, and followed up on connections, but nothing was working. The job market was tough, and everyone wanted someone currently employed or with connections. Defeated and exhausted, Tunde spent most days at home applying for jobs online and trying to figure out where his life went wrong. And slowly, Chioma began to pull away. One evening, Chioma returned from work and went to the kitchen to make dinner. Tunde walked up to her quietly and asked, "Babe, what are we eating tonight?" "Indomie," she replied without looking up. Tunde frowned. "Indomie again? We've had noodles for 5 days straight," Tunde said calmly. "You were home all day. Why didn't you cook something else?" Chioma spun around angrily. "Tunde, please. I'm tired," she yelled and walked out of the kitchen, slamming her bedroom door. Tunde stood there confused, wondering if he had said something wrong. But that was just the beginning. Slowly, Chioma grew irritated with everything he did. She sighed at him, snapped easily, and avoided him as much as she could. One evening, Tunde approached her gently as she sat scrolling on her phone. "Babe, please, can you lend me 20,000 naira to sort out some bills? I'll pay you back as soon as I get a job." Chioma looked up sharply. "I don't have that kind of money." "But you received your salary 2 days ago," Tunde said, confused. "And so what?" she snapped. "I used the money to pay for the wig and shoes I ordered online." Tunde's face hardened. "Chioma, you have so many wigs and shoes already. Why are you wasting money like this? Why do you have no self-control?" Those words set her off. Chioma jumped to her feet. "It's my money. I can do whatever I want with it. Go and find a job and make your own money. Stop using me to pour out your frustration. I'm not the one who made them sack you." She grabbed a bag and stormed out of the apartment. Tunde froze. Those words cut deeper than losing his job. He sank onto the couch, buried his face in his hands, and wondered what had happened to the woman he loved. Humble and faithful, beauty fades away. Money and wealth can disappear in one day. Pride destroys everything. But character, kindness, faithfulness, and true faith in God will always. Chioma's behavior got worse. She started coming home very late at night, carrying expensive designer bags. She wore new perfumes, new jewelry, and always seemed distracted. One night, Tunde finally confronted her. "Babe, why are you coming home this late? And who is buying you all these expensive things?" Chioma snapped immediately. "Tunde, you're not my father. You don't have the right to question me. I'm a grown woman. As long as you're living under my roof, I deserve to know," Tunde said firmly. "Then I'll just move back to my own apartment," she said coldly and started packing her things. Tunde grabbed her hand gently. "Babe, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I'm just scared of losing you. I love you so much," he pleaded. But Chioma pushed him away and walked out. The next morning, Tunde woke up to an empty house. Chioma was gone. All her things were gone too. His hands were shaking as he dialed her number. She didn't answer. He called over and over again. Still nothing. "I'm so stupid," he cried. "Why did I shout at her? I pushed her away." Desperate, he called Amara. "Please, help me talk to Chioma. I know I messed up. Please just beg her to take my calls." "All right, I will call her now," Amara responded, sounding worried. Later that evening, Tunde drove to Chioma's apartment. As he arrived, he noticed a big Lexus Jeep parked outside. He tried not to think too much about it. He knocked on the door. No answer. He pushed the door gently. It opened. The apartment was quiet. "Chioma," he called softly. No response. As he moved closer to her bedroom, he heard low voices and laughter. He opened the bedroom door slowly, and the sight before him broke him completely. Chioma was lying in bed with another man, both of them half-dressed. "Chioma!" Tunde shouted, his voice cracking with pain. "How could you? After everything I did for you. And who is this man?" He stepped forward in anger, but Chioma quickly jumped up and blocked him. "What did you do for me that someone else cannot do better?" she barked at him. "Tunde, it's over. I can't be stuck with a jobless man. I deserve better." She pulled off the engagement ring and threw it at his chest. "Leave my house now." Tunde's knees felt weak. He could barely stand. At that exact moment, Amara walked into the apartment. "Chioma, I've been trying to..." She froze completely at the scene before her. "Chioma, who is this man?" Amara asked, her voice shaking with shock. Tunde bent down slowly, picked up the ring from the floor, looked at Chioma one last time, and walked out quietly. His world had shattered completely. Amara turned to Chioma with tears in her eyes. "We need to talk right now." The next day, Chioma and Amara sat quietly in a small buka. "Chioma, why would you throw away what you had with Tunde for this man?" Amara asked gently, trying to understand. Chioma rolled her eyes. "Amara, if you called me here to preach, forget it. I'm done with Tunde, and that's final. And his name is Emeka, not this man." Amara stared at her, confused and hurt. "Chioma, what has come over you?" Chioma smirked. "Why are you acting pained? You've always had your eye on Tunde anyway. You should be happy I left him so you can have him for yourself." Amora's mouth fell open in shock. "Chioma, what are you saying?" But Chioma stood up and walked out without another word. For days passed. Tunde didn't leave his house. He didn't eat properly. He didn't sleep well. He just sat on his couch replaying Chioma's betrayal over and over in his mind. "How could she humiliate me like that after everything I did for her?" he cried. "Was she always this materialistic and greedy? Was I just blinded by love and didn't see that she only wanted my money?" But one thing he decided was that he wouldn't give up on himself. He had to keep trying. The next morning, he went to see an old friend who had his own business to ask for a loan or job opportunity. After a long discussion, the man simply said, "Let me think about it and get back to you." Tunde knew what that meant. Another rejection. As he walked home feeling defeated, a car honked repeatedly behind him. He didn't even look up until someone shouted his name. "Tunde!" He turned around. It was Amora. "Get in," she called. When he sat down in the car, she tried to lighten the mood. "You look like a lost puppy," she teased gently. Tunde only sighed deeply. "Come on," she said softly. "Let's go get some food. You look like you haven't eaten in days." He didn't argue. He really hadn't been eating properly. At the restaurant, Amora watched as he ate his jollof rice and chicken like he was starving. Her heart sank with pity. "Where were you coming from?" she asked carefully. Tunde wiped his mouth with a napkin. Another rejection. "I need money to start a small business or just any job at this point. But nobody wants to help. Even my so-called friends have all turned their backs." Amora took a deep breath. "I could help you. I've been saving money for a while now. I can give you 2 million naira. Start something small. Build it up gradually." Tunde shook his head immediately. "No, Amora, that's too much. I can't take that from you. You've worked hard for that money." "You can take it as a loan," she insisted. "Pay me back when your business is doing well. No pressure." Tunde swallowed hard, fighting back tears. "Thank you so much, Amora. You don't know how much this means to me. Thank you for believing in me when no one else did." Meanwhile, Chioma was completely lost in the luxury Emeka provided. She even quit her job at the telecom company because Emeka wanted her around all the time. But she didn't know she was walking straight into something dark and evil that would destroy her life forever. She started noticing something strange about Emeka. Every time he wanted to sleep with her, he would apply something on himself down there. "Babe, what's that cream?" she asked him one day. "Just lubricant," he replied quickly, not looking at her. But the smell was strong and very strange. It didn't smell like any normal lubricant. Still, she ignored it. The luxury and money had blinded her completely. She flaunted herself everywhere, wearing new clothes and posting online with captions like, "Living my best life and too blessed to be stressed." But soon, her body began to change in a bad way. She started losing weight very fast. Even though she was eating plenty of food, her body kept getting smaller. Her eyes looked dull and tired. Her energy was fading. Emeka kept telling her she looked beautiful, so she pushed her fears aside and didn't go to the hospital. Until one morning, everything changed forever. Chioma woke up feeling very sick. She ran to the bathroom sink, and what came out of her mouth made her scream in absolute terror. She was vomiting money mixed with blood. Cash notes were pouring out of her mouth uncontrollably as she cried and screamed in horror. Emeka heard her screaming and rushed into the bathroom. The moment he saw the money on the floor, he smiled wickedly. Finally, he whispered with evil in his eyes. He grabbed Chioma roughly by the arm and dragged her into a small, dark room at the back of the apartment. The room smelled like death and something rotten. "It's time for you to pay back everything I gave you," he said with a terrible smirk on his face. Chioma's heart completely shattered into pieces. Tears rolled down her cheeks uncontrollably as she realized a painful truth. She had traded real love and genuine care for a trap she might never escape from alive. Chioma cried until she had no tears left in her body. When she looked around the dark room properly, she saw women's clothes and shoes packed in one corner. That was when the full truth hit her like thunder. She wasn't the first victim, and she probably wouldn't be the last. "God, what have I done to myself? This is the end of my life," she whispered as fresh tears rolled down her face. Days passed, and Chioma continued to lose more weight. Every morning, Emeka would walk into the room with a big smile on his face. Not to help her or ask how she was feeling, but to pack the money she had vomited during the night. Chioma grew so weak she could barely speak anymore. She just lay silently on the cold, hard floor, praying desperately for God to save her or just let her die. Meanwhile, life was beginning to turn around for Tunde. He used the money Amora gave him to start a small phone accessories business. He rented a small shop in used market and ordered goods. Not as much as he used to have when he was working at the bank, but enough to start again and keep hope alive. Amora checked on him often. She called him regularly, encouraged him, brought him food, and slowly, Tunde began to smile again. He started seeing life differently. But Chioma was fading away fast. Her skin had turned gray like ash. Her bones were showing through her skin. Her voice was almost completely gone. She prayed for death every single day, but even death didn't come to take her. If only I had stayed with Tunde when he needed me most. If only I had listened to Amora's warnings, I wouldn't have ended up like this, she whispered weakly to herself. One morning, Emeka walked into the dark room, smiling as usual. He bent down with a bowl and started packing the money from the floor. "You brought me more money than anyone else I've used before," he said, smirking proudly. Chioma just stared at him with dull, lifeless eyes. She had no strength left even to cry or scream. One afternoon, as Chioma lay stiff and barely breathing on the floor, she heard a woman's voice in the apartment. Her heart began to race with a tiny bit of hope. Emeka was never home at that time of day, which meant the lady was alone in the house. Using every last bit of strength left in her dying body, Chioma crawled slowly to the door and tapped weakly on it. No response. She hit the door again, this time harder, using all her energy. At first, nothing happened. Then she heard footsteps coming closer. "Is someone inside there?" the woman asked, her voice shaking with fear. "Yes. Please help me. Please," Chioma whispered as loud as she could. The woman tried to open the door, but it was locked with a key. She looked around the room nervously and noticed a key hanging on a nail near the bed. She picked it up with shaking hands, opened the door, and almost fainted from the terrible smell that rushed out. Chioma was lying on the floor, looking more dead than alive. Her body was just bones and skin. "Please help me. Get me out of here before he comes back," Chioma begged with tears. The woman panicked completely. Every part of her body said, "Run away. Leave. This is too dangerous. You will die too." But somehow, she couldn't leave Chioma there to die like an animal. She lifted Chioma up. She felt as light as a small child. She carried her out of the apartment as fast as she could, her heart pounding so hard she thought it would burst. "So this is what that evil boy wanted to do to me too," she whispered as tears rolled down her face. She stopped a taxi on the road and rushed Chioma straight to the general hospital. As soon as Chioma was admitted and the nurses took her in, the woman quietly ran away. She didn't want to get involved, answer police questions, or put herself in danger. But deep down, she knew she had saved a life that day. Chioma spent many weeks in the hospital. But instead of getting better, she kept fading away more and more. Her sickness wasn't something medicine could cure. It was spiritual and deep. The doctors did everything they could think of, but nothing worked at all. One evening, the doctor gently told her that maybe she should consider seeing a pastor or spiritual healer because they had tried everything medically possible. But Chioma was too exhausted and weak. Deep inside her heart, she knew that only God himself could heal her now. Nobody else. So she decided to go home and make peace with everyone she had hurt badly. With trembling, weak hands and tears rolling down her thin cheeks, she called Amora. It had been many months since they last spoke. Amora, who was now in a serious relationship with Tunde, was completely shocked to see Chioma's name on her phone screen. Chioma weakly told her where she was admitted. Without wasting even 1 second, Amora and Tunde rushed to the hospital together. When they finally saw Chioma lying on that hospital bed, they both froze like statues. Amora covered her mouth in complete horror. "Chioma, what happened to you?" she cried, tears pouring down her face. Tunde just stood there like he couldn't move, his heart breaking into pieces at the sight before him. Chioma looked like a living skeleton, a shadow of the beautiful, proud girl she used to be. Through painful tears, Chioma told him everything. The fake luxury, the lies, Emeka, the ritual, the money vomiting, the dark room. All of it. Every shameful detail. Where is Emeka now? Amora asked, crying so hard her whole body was shaking. The police went to his house after I reported, but he had already run away. He is gone, Chioma whispered weakly. Together, Amora and Tunde took Chioma home from the hospital, just as she had requested. They couldn't let her die alone in that cold hospital. In her small sitting room, Chioma looked up at the two people she had once hurt so deeply and treated so badly. I'm so sorry, Chioma cried. I was blinded by material things and pride. I said terrible things to both of you. I broke your hearts. Please, please forgive me. I'm begging you. Amora and Tunde looked at her, so weak, so broken, so humbled by life. They couldn't hold on to anger anymore. Life had already punished her more than any words ever could. Forgiveness came with tears, tight hugs, and quiet nods. From that day forward, Amora took Chioma to church every single Sunday. She invited her to prayer meetings, Bible study, and fellowship. Chioma surrendered her entire life to Jesus Christ, seeking forgiveness, healing, and peace. Every day she prayed with all her heart, Lord, forgive me for everything. Even if you don't heal my body, please accept my soul when I die. Just have mercy on me. But God is truly a God of mercy and miracles. Slowly, day by day, week by week, Chioma began to regain her strength. First, she was able to sit up in bed without help. Then she started walking again with support. Her skin started to brighten. Her eyes regained some life and light. And little by little, step by step, she came back to life. Amora faithfully brought food, groceries, and always stayed to keep her company and pray with her. Months passed, and one beautiful morning, Chioma looked in the mirror and saw something impossible. She was whole again, completely healed. Tears of pure joy flowed freely down her cheeks. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Father, she cried. Chioma fully recovered and even helped Amora in planning her wedding to Tunde. It was emotional, healing, and beautiful to watch. On the wedding day, Chioma stood among the guests with tears in her eyes as Amora walked down the aisle, glowing like a queen. Tunde's eyes never left Amora for 1 second. He looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Chioma smiled through her tears of gratitude. They were always meant for each other, she whispered to herself quietly. Maybe God used me and my mistakes to help them see it clearly. Maybe that was my purpose in their lives all along. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she clapped loudly for the couple. Not tears of sadness or jealousy, but tears of gratitude, healing, and true happiness. She had fallen very low, but she had risen again by God's grace, and she had finally found real peace. Chioma's life teaches us all that chasing material things can blind our hearts completely, making us lose sight of what truly matters: love, humility, gratitude, loyalty, and good character. No amount of designer bags, expensive shoes, or luxury is worth sacrificing your dignity, your real relationships, or your very soul. When our priorities become shallow and focused only on show-off and social media, we risk falling into terrible traps that disguise themselves as blessings. This story reminds us of bitter truth that life will humble anyone who is too proud, and life will lift up anyone who stays, remain, and endure forever. In the end, Chioma found redemption and healing. Tunde found peace and love again. And they all discovered that true peace and happiness only come when we put God first, value people above material things, and choose forgiveness over bitterness and anger. Hey friends, where are you watching from? Please tell us in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to this channel for more real life stories like this. See you in the next one. Bye for now.